Right.
We're going to be doing like a lecture on liberalism. You look like Bart Simpson today, man. You bring your skateboard, your hat. You know what I'm saying? So what do you believe, Bear?
What do I believe?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
How did we get
learn
here?
everything.
Do you have a religious background that you?
I was sort of raised. I got a little bit of a Christian sprinkle over my childhood, I would say.
And what's your belief now?
Well, my belief is now. There's a lot more going on than we know.
Yes. You know, Bear.
Yeah.
You know, I always use this thought experiment to kind of put people in the scene, make people understand some important things, right? So imagine if you went to sleep tonight in your bed, yeah, and you woke up and you found yourself on a boat or on a ship, yeah, and there were people around you everywhere, and they were eating food and having a good time and so on. What would be the first thing you do?
Hijab. Yeah.
Observe, just watch.
Okay, so you observe it for a little bit, but after about, let's say 1 hour, right? 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe you have some food and so on. What would be the things that you do after that?
Talk, probably.
Okay, you talk to someone now. So what would you say to the person on the ship?
I don't know. It's a very hypothetical question, like situation.
Well, imagine you went to sleep tonight, yeah?
Yeah.
And you wake up on a boat. What would you want to know about that transition?
Where the boat is going.
All right, so where the boat is going, yeah? Maybe more fundamentally, what else?
What it all means. Why
What the boat means?
Yeah.
Why are you on the boat, yeah? Would you ask how you got on the boat in the first place?
Maybe, yeah. Probably.
I'm pretty sure you probably would, right? How did I get here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you went to sleep.
We don't do that often in dreams, though. It just happens.
No, not in a dream. This is real life. Yeah? You're on a boat.
Yeah.
So these questions are commonly referred to as the ultimate questions of life, right? Because in this analogy, the boat is life. Mm-hmm. If you think about the way life works, we're going forward in time. We came from somewhere, we have a reason, and we're going somewhere, right? And so those questions, if you are on the boat and someone said to you, look, don't ask those questions. Those are illegitimate type questions. I don't want to hear those questions. What would you reply to them saying?
They've all the right to say that.
You have all the right.
Questions are fun, you know?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, you have all the right to say ask those questions, right?
All right.
So here's my point. My point is these are almost innate questions that we have to ask by virtue of existential existence. So here's what I'm going to ask you, right? How would you answer those questions respective to the life in which we live? How did we get here? Why are we here? Where are we going? What are we doing here?
You know, people have written a lot of books about this, you know?
Yes.
They're asking me to answer that question right now.
Well, let's try and simplify things. I know lots of books have been written, but lots of books have been written on almost everything, right? On igneous and sedimentary rocks. On, you know, the point is this. Here's another question. Say we're walking in Speaker's Corner, yeah, right here, and we see a nice floating ball. Okay, it's just a floating ball, and it's hovering, okay? And me and you are walking, me and you have your skateboard there, and then you ask me, how did that ball get there? And I say you have three options. But we say that ball either was always there. Okay, that ball either was always there, right? That ball created itself, or there was something that created that ball. Which of those three options seem most reasonable to you?
I couldn't really pick an answer, you know?
Okay, well, Right.
To give you my perspective on things.
Yes.
Like there's a lot of religions, and I try to understand all of them.
Yes.
And so there's various different answers to all of these questions, and I don't think any answer is sort of clear cut.
Okay.
And so I'm not necessarily sure what I would answer in this hypothetical situation that you've just described. But
right. Well, let's
to pedal back to the questions you've asked me earlier, is I personally believe wholeheartedly that the reason why we're here is just in essence is to have fun.
Okay.
And I don't mean that in a hedonistic way, I mean a very bad example of just having fun would be the hedonism of the 60s revolution, where you've just had people who took drugs, drank a lot of alcohol, made love to everyone. I see that as a generation that didn't really understand the importance of responsibility, And so I think that we are bound and limited, and we have all of these limitations and these rules that we have to adhere to go through life morally, in a good way to cause the least disturbance and harm to all of our surroundings. But I think that in essence, it's really the point of us to be here and have fun,
I get what you're saying. I've heard what you said. Right. But let's go one step back before we ask the question, why are we here? The other question that I kind of asked you was, how do we get here?
Right.
I'll take your question on board in the next kind of segment, if you like, right? But here, how do we get here? Going back to the ball example, right? You have three possible logically disjunctive options. You have, in this logical disjunction, you have 1, 2, 3 options. Either the ball came as a result of self-creation, and we know self-creation is not possible because it means that something will have to exist and not exist at the same time, right? So like your mother giving birth to herself, is that something which is possible? No, because then that would mean that she has to exist and not exist at the same time. In the same way, right, the ball giving rise to itself is impossible because it's a contradiction in terms. It can't exist and not exist at the same time.
I've studied a lot of Eastern philosophy,
right?
And they offer another explanation for this, which is also something which is very interesting.
Okay.
Is I don't know the word in English, but there's these great myths of, say, the Egyptian religions where the ultimate God, in a sense, how the universe was created was by self-impregnation, and that's usually a symbolically female God. And so I'm not sure where you are coming from. I'm just trying to understand all of these stories.
Those things are all there. It's not even an Eastern tradition. I mean, what do you call it, Gilgamesh and all.
Right. So the Eastern thing,
the Egyptian thing you're talking about, is I can't remember the name of the god, but I know what you're talking. Is it Ra? Is it Ra? Is it not? But it's one of those gods. I'm not an ancient Egyptian specialist. Impregnates the other one, and therefore you had the heaven and the earth. But there you still had the coexistence of two things at the same time.
Yeah.
Even in that myth. The point is, on logical principles, it's not possible to have something that exists and doesn't exist at the same time. You see what I mean? So if I say I exist but I don't exist, are you here? Or if I say, look, I'm going to send you a text message, all right? Bear. Or I'm going to tell you something. And you say, what's that, Mohammed? What are you going to tell me? I'm going to tell you, look, I'm not here. What do you say about that?
Objectively speaking, you are here.
Oh, right. So it's a contradiction in terms. You can't exist and not exist at the same time, right? We accept.
Yeah.
So that, now we have the disjunction, and we took out one option, which is that the ball can't create itself. Now we go to the other two options. Either the ball was there eternally, or it was created by some other thing.
Yes.
In either event, the question would be, does the ball depend upon something or not? Because both of those options are logically valid options. Either the ball was always there, or the ball was put into place by something else. But in either event, the ball would have to be either dependent upon itself or dependent upon something else for its continued existence. If you say that ball is dependent upon something else because of its continued existence, then the question is, what is that other thing?
Well, so what you see a lot in Abrahamic religions
Right.
is when the notion of the creation of the universe is essentially a sort of the universe conceptualized as God being some sort of mechanic or engineer, like. He created the universe. As soon as you create something, it's essentially an assembly of parts.
Right.
So something from the outside that
Yes.
puts it together.
Okay.
What I find very interesting in Eastern philosophy, say Taoism, which is
Right.
what the Chinese people believe in. That's
Right.
that's the yin yang symbol, right?
Right.
They see the universe and the creation of the universe not necessarily as something that has been created, but something which grows. And so there's this dichotomy that you can make them between an organic take on the universe and a mechanic take on the universe. And so something that is constructed or something that grows of itself. And so a counter argument to what you're saying is could be, I'm not saying it is because
Yes.
I don't know, right? Is that the universe is actually maybe closer resembled by the symbology of say a flower. It's like you have a little seed. You're like, how is the seed going to do whatever? But it
Right.
has the potential to
Right.
arise.
So this is interesting because it's quite similar to what Richard Dawkins, although his book is not really.
I'm not a big fan.
I'm not a big fan of it. Look, I mean, of his book as well, it's got 300 pages or something. If you look at actually the arguments, it's probably about 20 or 30 pages. Yeah, the arguments against God's existence. But one of the things that he says is that the universe, literally, he uses the term, it has bylaws. So the laws of the universe could be the bylaws of a conglomerate of universes, which are the multiverse, right? And that there are bigger universes. And what he says is, and where it connects with what you're saying, is that he says that this universe or universes which survive, and he uses biological terminology here, evolutionary terminology. He says universes which survive are ultimately the ones which we get to know about and so on. So in other words, he anthropomorphizes the universe, right? Or you could say actually he personifies the universe in a sense, right? He personifies the universe in the sense that he gives it the characteristics of living things. So if the universe now, in order to be understood by people, has to be personified, that's a question. Why do we have to personify the universe? Now, if you think about it, number one, on naturalism, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that non-living things, yes, have an ability to evolve, or that they have that kind of flower example that you gave, which, by the way, a flower is a living thing, right? So going back to biology, it has no propensity to develop in and of itself or so on. But what's more interesting is that the naturalist has resorted, right, to using attributes of human being in order to make sense of the universe. And what strikes me about that is that those attributes of human being are also coextensive with the attributes of the Abrahamic God. For instance, the ability to grow something, the ability to develop something, the maintainer, the sustainer, and so on. So in other words, what the naturalist has to do is, in the case of Dawkins, or what the Eastern traditionists have to do, is that they have to give the universe the attributes of the God of Abraham, which obviously in this case is something that they kind of counter their theory on. Does that make sense?
I understand what you're saying, but I honestly do not believe you can reduce say Taoism down to naturalism.
No, Taoism, I'm not saying that's naturalism. I was talking about Dawkins. What I'm saying about that is that the universe is personified. It's given attributes which, from an Abrahamic religion perspective, belong to the attributes of God. Now, those attributes are seen as necessary in both Abrahamic religions and on Taoism, say, or Eastern traditions, in order for the universe to be explained.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
that's
perfect.
That's the core essence of,
right? We accept.
Of making things understandable.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now we have to ask the question: what are so? Why is it, in fact, that we have to refer to such attributes? right? So why do we have to refer to the maintenance of the universe? Why do we have to explain the universe in conjunction with maintenance, sustenance, development, and so on? And how can we do so without ascribing the ability of the universe to do those things with an entity that's transcendent or extraneous to that universe, which is able to endow the universe with such ability to be maintained and sustained and so on? So in other words, what is it about these attributes of maintaining and sustenance and development which are particularly important, right, in understanding the cosmos? I would answer by saying that you cannot understand the cosmos unless you understood that the universe itself, yes, that the universe itself is being developed or sustained or maintained or any of those things, or has laws, for instance, right?
Yeah.
But the question is, what is the most convincing explanation to why the universe has those attributes, either imposed upon it through being supervened on it,
or it was inherent in it as potential.
Absolutely. So that's my question.
The ball thing.
Yeah. Is it making you think a little bit?
Sorry?
Do you understand what I'm saying?
I'm following you. Yeah, sure.
Right. So you've got the thesis is this: the Abrahamic thesis, if you like, with the exception of the exception of Christianity, because obviously triune God and Trinitarianism and all that stuff. The thesis is that the universe was caused by a simple agent. The universe was caused by a simple agent. That it wasn't a modicum or a plethora or a multiplicity of agents, but it was just one cause.
Oh, yes. That's why I didn't get the connotation with Dawkins. Like the thing I said about Eastern philosophy, I didn't see the connection with Dawkins. And so when it comes to Dawkins,
both of them talked about biology, right?
And all that stuff, I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical.
Yeah.
I believe that not only the idea of a multiverse is a plausible idea scientifically speaking, but I think that most of the atheistic types that are die-hard convinced that there's no creator or whatever.
Yes. So to bring this back, the question is: do you accept the premise that every originated thing has an originator?
It's either from an originator or it has the potential from within itself. Yeah.
Right, so every originated thing, by definition, because it's been originated, must have an originator.
Yeah.
Okay. The universe is an originated thing. Right. Therefore, the universe has an originator.
Yeah.
Right. Now, let's go back to our qualities of the universe that you talked about: maintaining, sustaining, development, all that stuff. Is it fair to say that the qualities of that originator could be summarized as at least the ability to sustain, maintain, to put laws in place and so on for the universe?
I'm skeptical of laws, really.
Okay.
I think that laws...
Let's take the laws out for
laws, in a sense, are sort of...
but the ability to maintain, sustain the universe.
What do you mean by that? You think that
with the non-existence of the originator, the originated would not exist.
Yeah.
Yes?
One more time, sorry.
If the originator doesn't exist, then the originated can't exist.
I'm not sure.
Well, if everything, go back to what we said, everything that has an originator, that is originated, has an originator. The universe has an originator, therefore the universe is originated, therefore the universe has an originator, right?
Yeah.
So if the originator isn't there, then the originated cannot be there.
But, so like, where I feel you are coming from is from a very Abrahamic perspective. And so, say I would have been Chinese or Japanese and grew up from that culture, I'd have a completely different answer. I do feel I have a completely different answer because I've studied these cultures.
Yes.
But right now, I feel so interested by all these situations and stories and explanations that are all there that, in a sense, I understand where both parties, in a sense, if I
But what I'm saying to you is that, despite that being the case, because that could be the genetic fallacy, right? Depending on where the thing comes from, it might be right or wrong.
Yeah, well, all right. But so let me give you the entire elaborate story of the. What the question boils down to is how can something come from nothing?
Can something come from nothing?
Exactly. And so what's funny, what I find fascinating about Eastern countries and Eastern religion is that they have a completely different take on emptiness and space. Like if you go to Japan, like their rooms, they're often not so bulky. There's not much stuff. Everything you can just fold up so you can like create space. They have a very different take on nothingness.
Okay.
Buddhism, which also I found very interesting, very fascinating. Study that as well. A lot of doctrines are on emptiness, and I actually do feel you can like make connotations with that within Abrahamic religions, where they say like you have to empty your heart and all that stuff before you can like get filled up by the grace of God or whatever. So the Eastern religion take of the